At 4:37 in the morning on October 26, 1944, Second Lieutenant Elias Brennan would prove that the smallest weapon can change the mathematics of death. But first, he had to learn what death actually cost. The Vosges Mountains of eastern France didn't look like the war in the newsreels. No liberated villages, no grateful French civilians with flowers and wine. Just ancient forest so thick the trees choked out the sky. Fog that clung to everything like wet wool. Mud that swallowed boots and never gave them back. And silence. The kind of silence that happens when too many men have died in too small a space, and the forest itself holds its breath, waiting for more. Elias crouched in a foxhole that smelled like wet earth and old blood, and checked his weapon for the 100th time that hour. The M1 carbine sat across his knees, 5.5 pounds, 35 inches long. It looked like something a father would give his 12-year-old son to shoot tin cans off fence posts. The men in his platoon called it the squirrel gun, called it the toy, said it was a weapon for clerks who pushed paper in warm tents miles behind the line. Real infantrymen carried the M1 Garand, 9.5 pounds of American steel that could punch through brick walls. Elias was 19 years old but looked 14. 5 feet 5 inches tall, 110 pounds. His helmet wobbled. His uniform didn't fit. When he tried to enlist in the Marines, they'd laughed him out of the recruiting office. He'd proven them wrong about a lot of things. He was about to prove them wrong about one more. Elias Brennan grew up in Hunt County, Texas, during the years when the whole country learned what hunger felt like. The Depression had turned his family's farm into dust. His father died of tuberculosis when Elias was 12, coughing blood into rags until there was nothing left to cough. His mother disappeared 6 months later with a traveling salesman, leaving Elias with 11 younger siblings, 11 mouths to feed, 11 pairs of eyes looking at him like he had answers. He had one answer. His father's beat-up .22 rifle. 1 bullet equaled 1 meal. Miss the rabbit, and your brothers and sisters went to bed with cramping stomachs. Hit it, and you had stew for 2 days if you stretched it. Elias learned to shoot fast, learned to move through brush without sound, learned to take a shot while his hands shook and his heart hammered, and hunger gnawed at his belly. By 16, he could put 5 rounds into a playing card at 75 yards, while moving through timber. Not talent, necessity, because failure meant watching children cry themselves to sleep. When Pearl Harbor happened, Elias walked into the Marine Corps recruiting station in Dallas. The sergeant looked at him like he was a joke. "Go home, kid." The paratroopers said he was too small. "You'll break your spine on landing." The army took him reluctantly, wanted to make him a cook. Then came the rifle range. Staff Sergeant Holloway had 30 years in the army and a scar across his throat from a German bayonet at Meuse-Argonne. He didn't like the baby-faced kid stepping up to the firing line. Standard qualification, prone position, 300 yards, 8 rounds, passing is 6 hits. Elias had never shot prone in his life, never had the luxury of lying down while something waited to be killed. So he stood up, started moving, fired while walking the way you do when the target is moving and you're moving, and there's no time for textbook positions. 8 shots, 8 hits. 7 in the X-ring. The range went quiet. Holloway checked the target, looked at Elias like seeing him for the first time. "Who taught you to shoot like that?" "Hunger, Sergeant." Holloway stared at him a long time. "Infantry. You're going to infantry." That's how the kid nobody wanted ended up in France with a rifle nobody respected. They issued him the carbine at the replacement depot. The supply sergeant took one look at Elias's size and didn't bother with the Garand. The weapon felt right in Elias's hands, light, quick, but everyone kept telling him it wasn't enough. Sergeant Marcus Drake made that clear immediately. Drake was 45, face like carved granite, scars from Kasserine Pass and Sicily. He'd been fighting wars since before Elias was born. He looked at the carbine like it was an insult. "That's a clerk's weapon, Lieutenant. You planning on filing paperwork or fighting Germans?" "Fighting Germans, Sergeant?" "Not with that toy. I've seen men shoot Germans twice in the chest with those. German kept coming. Put a bayonet through the poor bastard's throat. Did he hit the German? What? Did his rounds hit center mass? Drake's jaw tightened. Yeah, both shots. Then the problem wasn't the gun, Sergeant. It was the shooter picking the wrong fight. The squad laughed. Not with Elias. At him. Private Lucas Varga started calling him Toy Soldier. Corporal Jesse Thorne started a betting pool. 2 weeks was the favourite for how long Elias would last. Only one man didn't join the mockery, Corporal Theodore Gallagher. Theo was 22, red hair, freckles, from Boston, talked too much and laughed too loud, and wrote letters to his wife Sarah every single night, no matter how tired he was. He'd been married 6 months before shipping out. Sarah was 5 months pregnant when he left. He carried her picture in his helmet, showed it to everyone. She's the prettiest girl in Massachusetts, he'd say, and she's going to make me a father. How about that? Theo didn't mock the carbine, just shrugged when others brought it up. Man carries what works for him. Weapon doesn't matter. What matters is whether you use it when it counts. Elias never forgot that. 3 weeks later, he would hold Theo while he died. They moved into the Vosges on October 14, 1944. The 3rd Infantry Division was tasked with taking positions around the Clary Quarry. Intelligence said the woods were crawling with German snipers, veterans who knew the terrain, who'd had weeks to prepare ambushes. The casualties started immediately. Day 2. Private Morrison caught a round through the neck, dead before he hit the water. Day 4. Corporal Bellamy stepped on a mine. They found pieces across 40 yards. Day 7. Sergeant Kowalski, shot by a sniper no one ever saw. The pattern became clear. The Germans were using tactics the Americans weren't prepared for. Double positions, bait and switch, sound discipline. A German would fire from one location. Americans would return fire. While they focused on that spot, a second German would move into position from a different angle. When the Americans scanned for the first shooter, the second was already aiming. Clean, professional, brutal. The worst part was the Garand's ping. When you fired the 8th and final round, the clip ejected with a distinctive metallic sound. Every German within 200 yards knew exactly when an American rifle was empty. That's when they struck. Lucas Varga died because of that sound on October 21st. He was on point, moving careful. A shot cracked from ahead. Lucas dropped flat, located the muzzle flash, brought his Garand up, fired back. 3 rounds. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ping! The clip ejected. Lucas reached for a fresh one. The German bullet hit him in the temple. He collapsed without a sound. Elias was 15 feet behind, hit the dirt, saw nothing. Drake crawled forward, checked Lucas, shook his head. That night, Drake sat next to Elias. "You see how it happened?" "Yes, Sergeant." Ping gave him away. German knew he was empty. Drake looked at the carbine, the detachable magazine. No ping when it ran dry. "Maybe that toy of yours isn't completely useless." First compliment Elias had gotten since France. He would have felt better if Lucas wasn't dead. Corporal Theodore Gallagher died on October 23rd. It took 40 minutes. The kind of death that teaches you what war actually costs. The platoon was clearing a ruined village, stone houses with collapsed roofs, windows like empty eye sockets. Theo and Elias were paired up, checking a bakery that still smelled faintly of burned bread. Theo went upstairs with his Garand, Elias covered from below with the carbine. The German was professional. He'd set up 2 positions, primary nest 400 yards out, secondary position in rubble 50 yards behind the bakery. He fired once from the primary, missed Theo by inches. Theo did everything right, dropped into a crouch, scanned for the shooter, saw the primary nest, brought the Garand up to return fire. He never saw the secondary position. The bullet caught him just below the right armpit, punched through his lung and out through his back. Theo made a sound like someone had shoved him hard, then fell. Elias was moving before Theo hit the ground, up the stairs, grabbed him under the arms, dragged him from the window, blood already soaking through Theo's jacket, dark red, too much. Elias ripped the jacket open, found the wound, hole the size of a silver dollar, bubbling, bright pink foam coming out with each breath. Lung shot. "Medic!" Elias screamed. "Medic!" He pressed his hands over the wound. Blood kept coming, hot, slick, pulsing with Theo's heartbeat. Theo started breathing wet, like trying to breathe through a soaked sponge. Each breath a horrible gurgling sound. He was drowning in his own blood. On the floor of an abandoned bakery in France. 7,000 miles from home. "Medic! Somebody!" No answer. The medic was 3 blocks away, pinned down, no way to reach them. Theo grabbed Elias's arm. His eyes were clear, aware, terrified. He understood he was dying, tried to speak. Blood bubbled from his mouth. Elias leaned close. "Sarah," Theo whispered. More blood. "Tell her." "You're going to tell her yourself. You're going to be fine. Just hold on." Theo's breathing changed, became ragged, irregular, each breath weaker than the last. He coughed. Blood sprayed across Elias's face, warm, copper-tasting. Theo's hand found Elias's, squeezed hard. His eyes locked on Elias's face, begging for something Elias couldn't give, begging to live. 40 minutes. 40 minutes Elias held him, pressed uselessly on the wound, watched the light in his friend's eyes dim, felt his grip weaken, heard his breathing slow and stop. When it was over, Elias sat there, hands red to the elbows, Theo's blood soaking into his uniform. Drake pulled him away. "Not your fault, Cole." But Elias knew different. If Theo hadn't been using a Garand, if he'd been able to see the secondary position while aiming at the primary, if the tunnel vision inherent in aimed fire didn't make flanking positions invisible, Theo Gallagher would still be alive, would meet his daughter in April. Instead, Theo's child would grow up never knowing their father. That night, Elias went through Theo's effects to prepare them for shipping home, found the picture of Sarah, young, smiling, pregnant belly visible under her dress. On the back, Theo's handwriting, "Sarah and baby, coming April 1945. Elias did the math, 6 months away. Something broke in Elias that night. Not his courage, his willingness to accept that the problem couldn't be fixed. 23 snipers dead. Lucas, Theo. Good men with families and futures. Dead because of tactical flaws no one would acknowledge. Dead because innovation was against regulations. If the system wouldn't save them, Elias would find another way. Even if it meant breaking every rule. Even if it meant risking everything. He wasn't going to hold another friend while he died. Not again. Never again. October 24th. 3 nights after Theo died. Elias couldn't sleep, couldn't stop seeing Theo's eyes, couldn't stop feeling the blood on his hands no matter how many times he scrubbed. He sat in his foxhole, cleaning equipment already cleaned twice. The carbine was immaculate, magazines loaded and checked, webbing organized. He was cleaning because if he stopped moving, he would start screaming. The platoon was quiet around him. 30 yards away, Drake read a letter by candlelight. Another hole over, someone cried softly, trying to muffle it. Everyone pretended not to hear. Elias reached for his personal kit, canvas bag holding everything that made him human instead of just a serial number, razor, soap, toothbrush, letters from his sister, and at the bottom, wrapped in wax paper, his shaving mirror. 4 inches by 6 inches, pressed metal frame. Government issue, the kind every soldier carried and nobody thought about. Elias unwrapped it, wiped condensation from the surface, looked at himself, barely recognized the face staring back. 19, but the eyes looked ancient, mud in his hair, cut across his cheek, Theo's blood still dark under his fingernails. He turned the mirror over, felt the weight, the metal frame. Something nagged at him, a thought that wouldn't form. He looked at the mirror, looked at his carbine, back to the mirror. The problem wasn't just the Garand's ping. That had killed Lucas. But Theo died differently. Died because when you aim at a target, the whole world narrows. Tunnel vision. You see what you're looking at with perfect clarity. Everything else becomes blur. Peripheral vision collapses. It's how humans are built, how the eye works. Unless. Elias held the mirror up, tilted it, caught the reflection of trees behind him. What if you could see two directions at once? What if you could aim forward while simultaneously watching your flanks? The idea was insane. Modifying military equipment without authorization was a court-martial offense. You didn't tape mirrors to precision weapons, but 23 snipers were dead. Lucas was dead, Theo was dead, and his daughter would never know him because doctrine said tunnel vision was acceptable. Elias looked at the mirror for a long time, then reached for his rifle. The first problem was position. You couldn't just attach a mirror anywhere and hope it worked. It had to be precisely placed. Angle had to be exact. Elias worked by feel in darkness, couldn't risk light. Any illumination drew fire. Attempt 1, above the barrel. Held it with his thumb, looked through the carbine's peep sight while trying to see the mirror. No good. Blocked his sight picture completely. Attempt 2, right side. Worse. His face was in the way. The aiming eye sits on the left when you shoulder a rifle. Mirror on the right showed nothing but his own cheek. Attempt 3, left side, too high. Had to lift his eye from the sight to see the reflection. In combat, lifting your eye meant dying. Attempt 4, left side, too low. Blocked view of the charging handle. Couldn't see if a round had chambered. Attempt 5, left side, too far forward. Angle was useless, showed nothing but ground. 20 minutes of fumbling, fingers numb from cold, tape losing stick in the damp air. The mirror slipped, fell to the foxhole bottom. Elias's heart stopped. If it shattered, the idea died. But the metal frame held, glass survived. Attempt 6, left side, 45-degree angle, 8 inches from eye. Elias looked through the sight and saw. Sight picture clear, perfect. Could aim at the tree line ahead with complete focus. But in peripheral vision, the mirror caught everything to his left and behind. A 120-degree cone of awareness, like having eyes on the side of his head. His hands shook. Not from cold, from realization. He'd just broken the fundamental limitation of aimed fire. Now he had to make it stay. The adhesive tape from the aid station wasn't enough. Held maybe 10 minutes before moisture degraded the glue. Elias needed something stronger, something that could survive rain and recoil. He crawled from his foxhole, moved through darkness to the supply dump 200 yards back. The guard was asleep, not drunk, just exhausted. The human body can only stay alert so long. Elias slipped past, found wire in engineering supplies, thin gauge, flexible but strong, also industrial adhesive compound, the kind that bonded metal to metal and didn't care about water. Took what he needed, ghosted back. The assembly took 2 hours. First, clean the mounting surface. Rubbed with his undershirt until metal was dry and smooth. Any moisture would prevent adhesive from bonding. Applied thin layer to the mirror frame. Pressed against the left side of the rifle. Held steady. Counted to 90. Arm cramping. Didn't move. Couldn't risk it shifting. At 90 seconds, tested gently. The mirror held. Now the wire. Wrapped it around rifle and mirror frame in cross pattern. Tight. Each wrap overlapping, creating web of support, distributing stress across multiple points. The wire bit into his fingers, drew blood. He ignored it. First wrap pattern, too loose. Mirror shifted during test aim. Unwrap, start over. Second wrap, too tight. Cracked the mirror frame edge. Elias's hands froze. If the frame broke completely, he was done. Only had one mirror. Breathed. Adjusted. Tried again. Third wrap. Correct tension but wrong pattern. Stable but blocked the charging handle. Fourth wrap. Finally. The mirror locked in place. Solid. Stable. Perfect angle. It looked ridiculous. A shaving mirror held to a military rifle with glue and wire, like something a child would build. But Elias didn't care what it looked like. He shouldered the carbine, aimed at the tree line, checked the mirror. Perfect. Forward and left simultaneously. 2 fields of view. 2 tactical situations. 1 brain processing both. The system that killed Theo had just been broken by a $4 mirror and 10 cents of wire. Elias sat back, looked at his creation. He'd just violated direct protocol, modified standard equipment without authorization, altered a weapon system in ways that could get him court-martialed. If an officer saw this, he was finished. But if it worked, if this actually saved lives, might keep someone else from bleeding out over 40 minutes while a friend held them and lied about how they'd be fine, the risk was worth it. But the mirror was only half the solution. The carbine's advantage was its 15-round detachable magazine. The Garand's weakness was its 8-round internal clip. But magazine changes still took time. 4 seconds to reach for a fresh mag. Find it in the pouch, pull it out, insert it, chamber around. 4 seconds was an eternity in combat. Elias needed faster. He unbuckled his belt. Standard army issue, heavy canvas with metal loops. What if he could carry magazines where his hand naturally went? Not in a pouch on his chest, on his hip, weak side, where his left hand rested when he wasn't shooting. He scavenged wire from the barbed wire he'd cut earlier, bent it into loops, 6 of them, each size to hold 1 magazine, attached them to his belt at hip level, loaded 6 magazines, slid them into the wire loops, tested. Right hand on rifle, left hand drops to hip, fingers find magazine by feel, pull straight up, old mag out, new mag in. First try, 5 seconds. Adjust loop angle. Second try, 3 seconds. Adjust loop spacing. Third try, 2.4 seconds. Again. By the 20th repetition, 1.2 seconds. Without looking, pure muscle memory. Elias loaded all 6 magazines, 90 rounds total, ready to fire before he'd need to reload from his pack. The Garand shooters carried 8 rounds per clip, maybe 3 extra clips on their belts, 32 rounds before digging into their packs. Elias had 90 and could reload 3 times faster. The math was starting to shift. October 25th, dawn. Elias and Private Owen Huxley were on patrol. Huxley was 23, from Oregon, moved through forest like he'd grown up in it. He carried a Garand. They were checking a farmhouse 300 yards from the American line. That's when Elias heard it. Not a sound. The absence of sound. The forest holding its breath. Something was wrong. Elias moved to a window, scanned the tree line, saw nothing. He'd covered his mirror with canvas. Now he peeled it off. And there, in the reflection, 40 yards left and behind his position, a shape that didn't belong. A German rifleman, positioned in collapsed barn rubble, camouflaged perfectly, invisible looking forward, completely visible in the mirror. The German was aiming, not at Elias, at the second-floor window where Huxley was moving. Elias didn't think, spun left, brought the carbine up, found the target. The German saw movement, started to shift aim. Too late. Elias fired 3 rounds, fast, controlled. The German went down. Huxley's voice from upstairs. "Cole, what have you got?" "Secondary position. You're 6. He was sighting you." Footsteps on stairs. Huxley came down fast, weapon ready, saw the fallen German through the window, looked at Elias, looked at the angle, at the impossible geometry. "How did you see him? You were facing forward. He was behind and left." Elias turned the carbine, showed the mirror. Huxley stared, touched it like it might be hallucination. "You can see flanks while aiming forward." "Yes. That German was about to kill me. I never saw him." "I know." Huxley's expression shifted, understanding to awe. "This is against every regulation." "I know. You could get court-martialed." "Probably." Huxley looked at Elias a long moment, then unslung his pack, pulled out his shaving kit, handed Elias his mirror. "Make me one." By nightfall, 4 rifles had mirrors. Elias worked in his foxhole by candlelight, fingers raw from wire, adhesive fumes making his head ache. But soldiers kept coming. Private Raymond Delaney. "My brother died from a flank shot last month. I need this." Corporal Marcus Whitmore. "I've been tunnel visioning for 6 weeks. Show me how it works." Even Sergeant Drake. Drake had demanded full explanation. Physics, geometry, angles. Then tested it himself. Aimed at a tree while tracking movement in the mirror. "Son of a bitch," Drake said quietly. "It actually works." "Yes, Sergeant." "How many operational?" "4, including mine." "We need more." Every rifle needs this. I don't have enough mirrors. Drake started moving through positions, collected mirrors from machine gunners, radio men, cooks, anyone who didn't carry a rifle. By midnight, Elias had 12 mirrors. He worked through the night, eyes burning, hands cramping. Because each mirror meant another soldier who might see the threat before it saw them. Each mirror was Theo's death meaning something. October 26th, 0430. Elias was finishing the 12th mirror installation when Captain Hayes appeared. Hayes stood at the foxhole edge, silent, looking at the crude mirror attachment. Everyone went still. Hayes was 35, from Virginia, career officer, by the book, the kind who believed regulations were what kept chaos at bay. And Elias had just violated about 15 equipment protocols. Private Cole. Hayes's voice was flat. What is that? Elias stood, snapped to attention. A field modification, sir. I can see that. I asked what it is. A peripheral vision enhancement system, sir. Allows the shooter to maintain sight picture while monitoring flanks for secondary threats. Hayes was quiet for a long time. How many weapons have this modification? Elias swallowed. 12, sir, including mine. 12? Who authorized this? No one, sir. So you modified military equipment without permission, in violation of Regulation 3-17? Yes, sir. Hayes picked up one of the modified rifles, examined the mirror, the wire binding, the adhesive. His expression was unreadable. Private Huxley, step forward. Huxley climbed from his hole, looked like he was facing execution. Did this modification save your life yesterday? Huxley hesitated. Yes, sir. German had me sighted from a secondary position. I never would have seen him. Cole spotted him in the mirror. Took him down before he could fire. Hayes turned to Drake. Sergeant, your assessment. Drake met Hayes's eyes. Sir, tunnel vision has killed 7 men in this platoon in 2 weeks. This system breaks that pattern. It's crude, it's ugly, it's completely unauthorized, and it works. Request permission to extend modification to all sniper weapons in the company. The forest was absolutely silent. Hayes looked at the casualty reports in his map case, looked at the mirror, looked at each of them. His face showed internal struggle. Career officer. Regulations were his religion. But men were dying. Finally, Private Cole. Sir, how long to fabricate and install this system? 45 minutes to an hour, sir. Can you train others? Yes, sir. Hayes nodded slowly, like making a decision that could save them or destroy him. By 0600, every sniper weapon in this company will have this system. Sergeant Drake coordinates. Use any materials necessary. He paused. I'll handle the paperwork. Elias felt something loosen in his chest. Sir? You heard me. We've lost too many men to doctrine that doesn't match reality. If this gives us an edge, we use it. I'll worry about regulations after we survive. Hayes started to leave, stopped. Cole, this conversation never happened. If anyone from Division asks, these mirrors were in place when I took command. Clear? Yes, sir. Good, because I'm not losing more men to problems I can solve, even if it means breaking every rule in the book. Hayes disappeared into darkness. Drake clapped Elias on the shoulder, hard enough to bruise. You just changed the war, kid, at least for us. Elias looked at the crude mirror on his carbine, at soldiers moving through positions with their shaving kits, at the small rebellion happening in mud and darkness. The experts in Washington would say it was impossible. The regulations would say it was illegal. But the men who would live because of it knew the truth. Sometimes survival requires breaking the rules. The toy soldier had just armed himself with something the enemy couldn't see coming. In 3 hours, he'd prove it. The morning Elias had been preparing for arrived right on schedule, October 26th, 4:37 a.m. The German attack came exactly as intelligence predicted, and Elias Brennan was ready. The forest didn't explode with one sound. It exploded with 100 sounds, layered until they became a single, roaring wall that felt like it was tearing the world apart. 3 German MG-42 machine guns opened up simultaneously. The sound wasn't rhythmic, pop, pop, pop. It was continuous ripping, like massive canvas shredding. 1,200 rounds per minute, 20 bullets every second. Green tracer rounds cut through fog in streams of fire. Where they hit trees, bark exploded. Where they hit dirt, the ground erupted. Elias pressed flat. The noise was so loud it stopped being sound and became pressure against his chest. This was the test. All the theory, the midnight modifications, the wire and mirrors and broken regulations. Live or die. Prove it works or prove it doesn't. The machine gun fire walked across the American line like a scythe cutting wheat. Methodical, professional. 30 yards right, someone screamed. The sound cut off. Drake's voice. Stay down. Do not expose. Good advice for the first 30 seconds, but if everyone stayed down, Germans would advance, would drop grenades into foxholes, would finish with bayonets. Elias lifted his head 6 inches, just enough to see. 3 MG-42 nests arranged in triangle, interlocking fields of fire, standard doctrine. But Elias wasn't looking at the obvious threats. He was looking at what the mirror showed. In the angled reflection, movement. 70 yards left. Shapes low to ground, moving through undergrowth while machine guns held attention. Flankers. German infantry squad using MG-42 fire as cover, crawling toward American left flank. In 2 minutes they'd be in grenade range. Elias rolled left, brought the carbine up, aimed at the flanking squad. He could see them in peripheral vision while watching primary threat in his sight picture. 2 fields of view, 2 tactical situations, 1 brain processing both. Lead German 50 yards out, moving careful, professional. Elias put the front sight on center mass, squeezed trigger. The carbine jumped, barely, gentle push. German went down, shift aim, fire, fire. 3 Germans down in 4 seconds. The rest hit dirt, confused. They'd been invisible. How was someone shooting them with precision during machine gun chaos? They didn't know about the mirror. Elias kept firing. 3-round bursts. Shift. 3 more. The 15-round magazine gave him staying power. The flanking attack broke. Germans retreated into timber. Because of a $4 mirror and a kid who'd learned to shoot feeding his siblings. Drake. Cole, what have you got? Flankers left. 10 plus. Broken contact. Can you move on those MG positions? Could he? Machine gun nest 70 yards forward, heavily fortified. But machine gunners focus forward. They don't watch flanks because flanks are supposed to be covered by infantry. Infantry. Elias had just driven off. Moving. Movement in combat is controlled panic. Elias crawled. Used every piece of cover, every depression, every fallen log. The carbine slung across his chest, both hands free. He pulled himself forward on elbows. Mud freezing, soaking through uniform. MG-42 fire continued, but focused on main line, not on Elias crawling through dead ground. He covered 40 yards in 2 minutes, every second expecting a bullet. First machine gun nest came into view, sandbagged position. 2 men, 1 feeding belt, 1 behind gun, concentrating entirely forward. Elias rose to 1 knee behind fallen pine, shouldered carbine, mirror showed clear flanks, no threats behind, range 25 yards, point blank for the carbine. Fired 5 rounds fast as he could pull trigger. Gunner collapsed across weapon. Assistant tried for pistol. Elias shot him twice. First MG-42 went silent, didn't wait, dropped flat, crawled 15 yards. Machine gun nest 2 hadn't noticed. Still firing forward. Elias flanked right. Same technique, same mathematics. Killed both men before they understood they were under attack. Second MG-42 silent. Now, Germans knew something wrong. 2 positions down, no artillery, no assault, just silence. Third crew started repositioning, trying to find threat. Elias saw them in mirror before they saw him. Put last 10 rounds into their position. Didn't kill them all but made them duck, made them abandon the gun. Close enough. Magazine release, empty fell to mud. Fresh one slapped in. 2 seconds. The forest went quiet. Terrible quiet after violence. Ears ringing, heart pounding. Drake, "Machine guns down! Advance!" American line moved forward. They found Elias kneeling by 3rd MG 42, weapon across knees, breathing hard, covered in mud. 50 yards left, Huxley was checking bodies near the collapsed barn, where the flankers had been. Cole's mirror showed him the flankers, Huxley called. Saved the whole left side. And 30 yards right, Corporal Whitmore was standing over a German sniper nest. "My mirror caught him repositioning," Whitmore shouted. "Got him before he could fire." Drake stared at the 3 silenced machine guns, at Huxley, at Whitmore, at the system working exactly as designed. Not just one hero, a force multiplier spreading across the platoon. Drake looked at Elias, at the crude mirror taped to the carbine. "The experts were wrong," Drake said quietly. "Yes, Sergeant, they were." By noon, word spread through 3rd Infantry Division. A lieutenant with a modified carbine had broken a German ambush, had flanked 3 MG positions solo, used some kind of mirror system to see threats no one else could see. The story grew. By the time it reached rear echelon, Elias hadn't killed 6 Germans, he'd killed 20. Hadn't silenced 3 machine guns, had destroyed 5. But core truth remained. The mirrors worked, and soldiers wanted them. By nightfall, 43 rifles in the division had mirror modifications. Next morning, 78. The statistics shifted. 2 weeks before mirrors, American sniper deaths 1.6 per day. Germans killed 0.8 per day. Losing ratio. 2 weeks after mirrors, American deaths 0.3 per day. German deaths 2.2 per day. The mathematics had reversed. Officers started asking questions. Where did this come from? Who authorized it? Hayes covered, told everyone mirrors were in place when he took command, sent reports carefully avoiding Elias's name. It worked for 6 weeks. Then the experts came. January 7th, 1945. The Aberdeen Proving Ground Evaluation Team arrived in 3 jeeps, led by Colonel Robert Morrison, 52, grey hair, wire-rimmed glasses, never fired a shot in combat, but had written 17 technical papers on small arms tactics. Morrison moved through positions like touring a factory, taking notes, photographing, treating soldiers like specimens. He stopped at Elias's foxhole. Elias was cleaning his carbine, mirror clearly visible. Worn now, tape yellowed, wire rusted, but functional. Morrison picked up the weapon without asking. "Ingenious," he said to his assistant. "Simple reflected optics expanding peripheral awareness. Crude execution but sound principle." Turned to Elias. "Who designed this, Private?" "I did, sir." "When?" "Late October, sir, after Corporal Gallagher was killed by a flanking position he couldn't see." Morrison made notes. "Gallagher, yes. Unfortunate. Like discussing a broken tool." Photographed the mirror from 3 angles, measured distances with tape measure. "And you implemented across how many weapons?" "Initially 12, sir. Captain Hayes ordered expansion after field testing proved effectiveness." More notes. Then Morrison said something that made Elias's blood freeze. "The mirror concept has been under development at Aberdeen approximately 6 months. Field testing various configurations. This appears to be convergent evolution, independent discovery of the same principle." Elias stared. "Sir, I built this in October, with a shaving mirror and wire, because my friend died." Morrison's smile was professional, empty. "I'm sure you believe that. But official research timeline shows Aberdeen began this project May 1944, well before your alleged discovery." "It's not alleged, sir. I can show you witnesses." "That won't be necessary." Morrison handed the carbine back. "We'll incorporate this into official doctrine. Congratulations. Your field confirmation has been valuable." Started to walk away. Elias found his voice. Character growth. "Sir, Corporal Gallagher died in my arms. I held him 40 minutes while he drowned in his own blood. I built this mirror because I couldn't do that again. That's not belief, that's fact." Morrison stopped, turned, expression cold. "That's an anecdote, Private, not documentation. Aberdeen has laboratory records, test reports, official timelines. You have a story." "I have witnesses, Huxley, Drake, Captain Hayes, who all benefited from unauthorized modifications they should have reported. Their testimony is compromised." Checkmate. Morrison had thought this through. Drake stepped forward. "Colonel, that's horseshit and you know it. This kid invented—" Morrison cut him off. "Sergeant, I suggest you remember your rank. This conversation is over." Turned to Hayes. "Captain, your career is already questionable for allowing these modifications. I recommend you don't make it worse by contradicting official findings." Everyone silenced. Systematically. Morrison. "We'll integrate this into doctrine. Be proud you discovered it independently, Private. That's all." Walked away. Drake. "That bastard!" Elias stood numb, realized he had no power. 19. Nobody. They'd destroy him and the mirrors would disappear. Hayes put hand on Elias's shoulder. "I'm sorry, son. Some battles you can't win." That night, Drake found Elias alone. "They're stealing it." "Yes." "You going to fight?" Elias thought about Theo bleeding out, about Lucas, about all the men who died before mirrors. "Theo's still dead. Mirror won't bring him back. If it saves others, maybe that's enough." Drake had no answer, because they both knew the truth. Innovation gets stolen, heroes get erased. That's how the system works. The official report was filed March 1945. Subject: Field Evaluation of Peripheral Vision Enhancement for Sniper Applications. Conclusion: Aberdeen research team successfully developed mirror-assisted sight system, May to December 1944. Field trials, European theatre confirm tactical utility. Recommend immediate integration into doctrine. Elias Brennan's name appeared nowhere. Neither did Theo Gallagher, or Hayes, or any soldier who actually bled for it. The mirrors became standard, taught in training, included in manuals, always credited to Aberdeen, the experts, the system, never to a scared kid who couldn't watch another friend die. The war ended. Elias came home to Texas with 3 Purple Hearts and Bronze Star he didn't discuss. Got construction job, married schoolteacher Ruth, had 2 daughters. Never mentioned mirrors. 1953. He saw military manual in gun shop, flipped through, found section on sniper equipment, diagram of mirror system, technical specs, installation procedures. At bottom, developed by U.S. Army Ordnance Department, 1944. Shop owner noticed, amazing what those engineers came up with, probably saved hundreds of lives. Elias closed the manual. Probably. Never went back to that shop. 1968. Theo Gallagher's daughter found Elias through Veterans Organization. Sarah, 23, looked exactly like Theo's photograph. She asked what her father was like, how he died, whether he was brave. Elias told her everything except the mirror. That felt like making her father's death about himself. Told her Theo was kind, funny, loved his family, died protecting friends. All true. Sarah cried, thanked him, said it meant everything to finally know. She never knew her father's death led to innovation, saving dozens of other fathers, because Elias never told her. What would be the point? 1985. Colonel Robert Morrison died. Obituary called him pioneering weapons developer. Credited him with numerous innovations including peripheral vision mirror system for infantry rifles. Elias read it at his kitchen table. Ruth found him an hour later, staring at newspaper, tears running down his face. 38 years married. She'd never seen him cry about war. Eli? They gave him credit. All of it. Theo died, and I built mirrors, and that bastard took credit, and now he's remembered as a hero. Ruth held him, said nothing. The lie had become history. 1987. Dr. Patricia Brennan was military historian researching field innovations in World War II. Not related to Elias, different family. But the name would matter. Digging through Aberdeen archives, she found something odd. Official Mirror report dated March 45, but field reports from France, dated October to November 44, mentioned soldiers using improvised mirror attachments 3 months before Aberdeen supposedly invented it. She dug deeper, found casualty reports, statistics, letters from officers requesting supplies for unauthorized but effective modifications. Requisition from Captain Hayes, dated November 2nd, 44, requesting 80 hand mirrors for equipment modification program, 2 months before Aberdeen's invention date. Timeline didn't match. Dr. Brennan tracked down survivors, found Huxley, Whitmore, Drake. They told everything. Theo bleeding out, Elias building first mirror in Foxhole, Hayes covering them, Morrison stealing credit. "You need to talk to Cole," Drake said. 67 now, liver-spotted hands, voice steady. "He's the one who built it, saved us." Dr. Brennan found Elias in Hunt County, Texas. 62 years old, gray hair, weathered face, hands scarred from construction. She told him she knew the truth, writing a book, wanted to set records straight. Elias was quiet long time. How many did it save? Based on statistical analysis, between 60 and 90 American soldiers in Europe, more in Korea and Vietnam. 60 to 90 families who got fathers back, because a scared kid couldn't watch another friend die. "Mr. Brennan, the Army took credit for your invention, erased your name. Don't you want people to know the truth?" Elias looked at his hands, still saw Theo's blood under fingernails sometimes, even though 43 years had passed. "What I wanted was for Theo to live, to meet his daughter, go home to Sarah. Mirror can't give me that." "But you saved others." "Yes. Doesn't that matter?" "Of course it matters. It's why I did it. But I didn't do it for credit. I did it because I couldn't carry another friend's blood." Dr. Brennan studied him. "This isn't about glory, sir. It's about truth, making sure soldiers who innovate get recognized instead of officers who steal their work." Elias smiled. Sad, tired. "You're right. Publish the truth. Not for me. For all soldiers who fix problems and get erased." "Thank you. But doctor, make sure you tell them about Theo Gallagher, how he died, about his daughter Sarah. That matters more than who built the mirror." "I will." The book was published 1988. Field Expedient: The Unauthorized Innovations That Won World War II. Chapter 7. The Shaving Mirror That Changed Sniper Warfare. Told the truth. All of it. Theo's death. Elias's invention. Morrison's theft. 43 years of lies. Military community read it. Veterans. Historians. In 1989, Army Infantry Museum at Fort Benning quietly updated an exhibit. M1 carbine behind glass. Serial 3447232. Mirror still attached. Wire binding rusted but intact. Old placard. Mirror sight system developed by Aberdeen Proving Ground, 1945. New placard. Mirror sight system developed by PFC Elias Brennan, 3rd Infantry Division, October 1944, following death of Corporal Theodore Gallagher. Standardized 1945. Estimated lives saved 60 to 90. Small correction, but truth. The museum held small ceremony. Surviving 3rd Division members attended. Elias was invited, brought Ruth and daughters. He stood before the case, saw the carbine with his mirror behind glass, saw the placard with his name, Theo's name. First time, official recognition. Touched the glass, old fingers on cold surface. That mirror saved 60 lives. Took 43 years to get credit. Museum director: "Mr. Brennan, would you like to say something?" Elias: "Just say Theo Gallagher's name. Remember him. That's enough." Elias Brennan died June 12, 2001, 76 years old. Cardiac arrest, quick. Funeral was small. Family, construction company friends, V.F.W. color guard. And 7 old men nobody recognized. Sat in back. Didn't speak during service. After, They approached Ruth and daughters. First man, 78, walking cane. "Ma'am, I was 3rd Infantry. Your husband's mirror saved my life at Colmar." Second, Owen Huxley. "I was the first he showed the mirror to. October 44. He saved my life that day. Used his system rest of the war." Third, Marcus Whitmore. "Your husband's mirror let me see threat that would have killed me. I lived to raise 3 daughters." Fourth, Captain Hayes's son. "My father died 73. His last words, 'Tell Brennan I never regretted breaking those rules.'" Fifth, I teach snipers at Benning. Every class hears about Elias Brennan and Theo Gallagher. Real innovation comes from necessity, not committees. Sixth, Raymond Delaney. "My brother died from flank shot. Your husband's mirror meant I didn't. My grandchildren exist because of him." Seventh, I used the system career, taught my squad. We all came home. All 7 had driven hundreds of miles. Read about Elias's death in Veterans Newsletter. Came to make sure family knew, to make sure someone remembered. Ruth cried. Not sad tears, grateful ones. Her husband spent 43 years thinking no one cared. But these men came. Because the men who lived knew the truth even when history didn't. Today at Fort Benning, you can see it. M1 carbine number 3447232 behind glass. Mirror 4 by 6 inches, metal frame tarnished, wire binding hand twisted, crude ingenuity, desperate innovation. Built by 19-year-old with materials costing $5 because he couldn't watch another friend die. The placard tells part of the story. Doesn't tell you what it felt like holding Theo Gallagher while he drowned in his own blood. Doesn't tell you about 40 minutes of desperate prayer that didn't save him. Doesn't tell you innovation doesn't come from committee rooms or testing ranges. It comes from need, from desperation, from someone who sees a problem and refuses to accept it can't be solved. That's how war really changes. Not through experts. Through soldiers in foxholes who watch friends die and say, never again. Who build something impossible with pocket change. Who save lives and get no credit. Who die decades later in quiet houses in Texas. And get remembered by 7 old men who drove across states to say thank you. Elias Brennan built a mirror because Theo Gallagher died. That mirror saved 60 to 90 soldiers. Those soldiers had children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. All exist because a scared kid with a toy gun refused to accept good men had to die for bad doctrine. Army eventually gave him credit. Historians eventually told his story. But truth is simpler. He didn't do it for credit. He did it because he loved his friends. And that mattered more than anything the experts ever said. If this story moved you, you're part of why it matters. Hit that like button. Not for me. For Theo Gallagher, who never met his daughter. For Elias Brennan, who saved 60 lives and got erased for 40 years. Subscribe to this channel. There are hundreds more stories like this. Soldiers who innovated, who saved lives, who got buried by the system. Comment below, tell me, have you heard of innovations that were stolen? Of heroes who were erased? Because you're the guardians now. You're the ones who keep these names alive. Theodore Gallagher, Elias Brennan. Say their names. Remember them. That's how we win against forgetting. End.